almost to treat it like a job interview. What would you do before you're going on a job interview?
Exactly.
You would research the company, you would find out, you know, what they've been doing, you would dig up any kind of information you could on the person you're going to be meeting with. And with the internet, I mean, you can find out everything, more than you ever wanted to know. For those of you that aren't hooked in on LinkedIn, you should all be on LinkedIn. You know, try to get connected to prospective people that you'll be meeting with on LinkedIn. Use those online resources because Facebook is another one. You know, take off all the pictures of you drinking beer or whatever. But Facebook is a really, and I don't love social media, but it's a really useful tool. And I would think for what you guys do, it's a really great place to gather information. There's an inherent power dynamic that's going on here, just like when you go to interview for a job. And I think to acknowledge that and to be totally comfortable with that is probably going to be very helpful. I mean, at the end of the day, you are trying to sell something, and I know, you know, sell is, maybe it's a dirty word in the nonprofit world, maybe it isn't, but that's what you're doing. You have a service, and you are trying to convince a business that they want your service. And so you can call it anything you want, but that's what it is. And the employer is the decision maker. It's just like hunting for a job. It's really, really frustrating, and you get a ton of no's, or people don't return your calls. The question is, how are you going to stand out? And this is sort of some of what Linda was talking about. You know, this is what I like to see. Here's how this employee can fit in well to your business. Here are the skills that they come with. You know, here's the loyalty they're going to show. Here's their track record, just as you would do if you were trying to get a job. There's a whole other level to this conversation, which is actually the level that really interests me, and that is what are the bottom line benefits to a diverse workforce? You know, what kind of consumer goodwill can a business create by really emphasizing hiring people with disabilities, or hiring youth in transition, or you know, having really green practices? This is sort of where I spend much of my time every day with clients, and as I said, it is a whole separate conversation, and probably warrants an entire seminar, but I think there is a movement out there in corporate America. Everybody is vying for being able to say they're the greenest, they're the most diverse, they have the best, they offer the best benefits to their employees, and they're marketing these things, and they're marketing these things because we know that if the price point is similar, consumers prefer those businesses that are more progressive. That is across the board. That is why businesses pay hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to employ consultants to come in to tell them how to market these things. So I don't want to get too far into that, but I think it's an area where you guys, if you can, and that's kind of what I was talking about when I was talking about your business pitch. You know, you have a specific business pitch around a specific employee, but you also have a bigger business pitch around, you know, this is good for business, because if you do this well and you can communicate it to your consumers, it can generate earned media, you know, newspaper articles, it can generate consumer goodwill, it can increase your market share, and you should all be familiar with what's the buying power of people with disabilities. It's in the billions of dollars. That's a huge market share for a business. And so I think, again, I don't want to belabor this point, but I want to raise your awareness around that, because then you're talking a business's language.
You've probably all heard of the Work Ready curriculum. And what happens is human resource professionals come in for the part that's the interview training itself. And the prisoners have all said to a person that this is the most important part of the training. And after this experience, I can't say enough to you about excellent interview training for your clients. So if you think about, these gentlemen are in there and they've got to figure out how they're going to go back on the outside, as we say, and say to somebody, I'm a felon and this is why you should hire me. I mean, I'd much rather talk about my disability than I'd want to talk about, you know, my sex offense. So, but what is astounding to me is everybody who goes to the training just comes away blown away by the quality of the clientele that we're dealing with. these people really want to work. They convince us that they really want to work. And the way they do that is they talk about their work ethic. A lot of them have already had a lot of experience, but they are so motivated, and that comes through so strongly. I can't say enough about that and about focusing on the interview training.
You should have sort of at your beck and call some employers that have worked with job coaches that can essentially provide testimonials. So if you say, hey, you know, this person is going to have a job coach at least for a period of time. I know that can sound weird and intimidating and kind of freaky because it's not, you know, standard operating procedure. But here, you know, I've got 4 or 5 employers that have, you know, were in a similar situation to you where they never had a job coach, and they would be happy to talk to you about their experience. And so using that employer to employer, I mean, employers love to hear from other employers. I mean, it's so